After the Article 32, the next step will be the referral of charges. Once the charges are referred, the next step is you will have an arraignment date. An arraignment sounds very scary, but essentially you're going to go into court. You will be there present. Nowadays, in the modern post-COVID era world we live in, many of these are done via VTC or via Zoom because judges are all over the place, and a lot of times the Army, the Air Force, Navy, Marine Corps doesn't want to spend a lot of time, money, and resources to do what's going to be a 5 to 10 minute hearing. So it's possible this will be via VTC, and your counsel may appear via VTC as well. The arraignment is literally a 10-minute hearing where you are arraigned on the charges, and that has certain legal consequences. The reality is you're going to basically choose your counsel, so the judge will ask you who you want to represent you. And so that becomes very important if you're making a decision to retain civilian counsel. If you've not made a decision to retain civilian counsel and you're on the fence about it, you really should make that decision by arraignment, because we have to make what's called a notice of appearance before the court. And at this notice of appearance before the court, they will take into consideration our own schedules when doing docketing. And so if you are hiring civilian counsel after arraignment, it can be done, but it complicates the scheduling process greatly. And depending on the judge, we may or may not be able to get continuances. We may or may not be able to even help you with that case. So if you're considering hiring civilian counsel, you really should be doing that prior to arraignment. Also at arraignment, you will enter your pleas. One of two things often happens. You usually enter pleas of not guilty, or you defer the entrance of pleas, which one is really one and the same. They're different in terms of by deferring the entrance of pleas, you'll be entering them just at a later date set by the trial management order. The crux of the arraignment is that if you go AWOL or voluntarily absent yourself after arraignment, they're going to do the trial without you. And so that's arraigned on the charges. They'll do a trial with an empty chair. And so if you voluntarily absent yourself, go to another country, don't show up for trial, do whatever you're going to do, they're going to do the trial without you. Let me tell you what, when the jury's looking over and you're not there, you're probably not going to win. It's going to be a really bad day. Thankfully, I've never had that happen in 20 plus years of practice, but I know people that have had the empty chair trial, and I don't know of a successful one. The judge will advise you of that if you go AWOL, they'll do the trial without you. That's the legal consequence, essentially, of an arraignment. And at the arraignment or after the arraignment, the judge will do what's called the trial management order, the docketing order. It's called different things, but that's just the schedule. And that's why it's critically important that if you're going to retain civilian counsel, to do it prior to the arraignment, if at all possible, because we need to work in our own schedules, the judge's schedules. We may have expert witnesses. And so we're going to need to draft a schedule. And the schedule is just essentially when discovery is owed to the defense, when we're required to notify the government of certain trial milestones, when we have to file motions, when do we have to litigate those motions, when do we have to request experts, and so on and so forth. And typically that's done in an orderly fashion so the trial can proceed along. And not every case goes to trial on the initially docketed dates. Oftentimes there are issues that arise that no one can foresee, which may drive a continuance. But typically we try not to file continuances if we don't have to. Continuances typically don't help our case unless there's a strategic need to do so. So that's when you'll know your trial date after the arraignment.